Я единственный в огне, кто читает свои сны. Поклоняюсь темноте.
As you may have expected, though probably not with the particularly correct prescience, the siege of Area 51 ended disastrously for everyone involved. How do I know? I was of the deluded though determined congregation that stormed the base. Our numbers were minuscule in comparison to those who had pledged their participation online. But still, we raided as a formidable army. Hundreds sprinted collectively in a kind of mutually shared mania. Our speeds, though impressive, did not surpass those of bullets. The guards were posted in a perimeter around the base, befitting any other military establishment. They hadn't expected a serious effort, at least not one of our size, and when we approached in mass, bored and experienced, and sun-fatigued soldiers snapped to delayed attention as we beleaguered the compound. Some of us were immediately dispatched by on-site deterrents. Buried proximity sensors activated anti-personnel turrets loaded with non-lethal rounds. Bodies fell in clusters, and a sizable portion of our admittedly pitiful army immediately turned back towards their vehicles. Those of us that persisted, determined to uncover the secrets of that legendary base, continued the onslaught, armed with naught but our cameras, makeshift gadgets, and curiosity. I remember leaping over a fallen comrade, his eyes pouring tears as he dabbed delicately with a napkin at large red marks on his forehead, where he had been struck by one of the automated defense system's pellets. The group-borne energy was quickly depleted in the face of the base's efficient weaponry. By the time myself and others reached the actual fence that enclosed the base, the guards had taken up a position of suppression which would have easily been our doom, if some of us hadn't anticipated such quick failure before we had even set foot on the actual grounds. No one had brought weapons, so as to avoid being charged with any major felonies, though we had equipped ourselves with various devices which we had believed to be inimical to the human psyche. Every manner of hypnotic and hallucinogenic construction was employed. Devices meant to stun, disorientate, confuse, and befuddle, hastily prepared and not so expertly used. Most of the guards targeted merely laughed, while others seemed to succumb, albeit minimally, to the desired effects. However, this momentary lapse in concentration and formation was all we needed, and our sheer numbers collided with theirs to our favor. Upon breaching the perimeter fence, a great, exultant roar could be heard, as our forces tasted a small yet totally unforeseen victory, and the guards who had been gatekeepers merely stood in disbelief. Though our numbers had been reduced to only a few dozen, we surged through the massive plot of land with as much fervor as before, and dispersed into smaller groups to cover more ground. My group comprised of those who sought the answers to Roswellian mysteries and hoped to capture images of an extra-mundane nature, entered a large and seemingly spacious building to the east of the compound. The building's structure suggested use as a hangar for aircraft, and I'm sure you can guess what sort of aircraft we expected to find. More guards were present there, though we dispatched them without issue using our hypnotic gadgetry. Inside, though indeed a hangar, we found only the regular, mundane aerial vehicles of Earthian design. We maintained radio contact with the other groups, and to our great disappointment, a reported similar failure in uncovering any extraterrestrial artifacts. Strangely, the group that believed the base housed non-alien yet equally preternatural objects or presences hadn't reported their findings. My group unanimously agreed that this was troubling, due to that group containing the hardiest and most devoted of our congregation. We set out to find the silent detachment, a flame of interest reignited within us. By then, our numbers had dwindled to a fraction of what had first entered, most of them having been detained or slain by the armed personnel who saw our ransacking and loitering as troublesome enough to warrant serious retaliation. Gunfire was heard, blood was smelled, and screams were unnervingly cut short all around us. My group came across a duo of rather trigger-happy guards who had just neutralized an entire gang of truth-seekers, and if it hadn't been for the sacrifice of a brave inquisitor, we all would have fallen. He charged at the guards, tackling them to the ground, allowing us to escape into an unmarked building whose stairs led into the earth. Behind us we heard struggling, and then the report of a rifle. The building stairs led down for a great distance, and though I was never particularly good with determining geographical scale, I am at least certain that our descent measured a mile, perhaps more. Concrete walls and stairs descended interminably, the passageway illuminated at intervals by simple bulbs that dangled from the chains affixed to the ceiling. We grew weary despite the downward trek, and 2 members fell from exhaustion. When we turned to help them up, they demanded we continue on. Eventually, we arrived at a large metal door, with a simple crank serving as a knob. I turned the crank, and after a strenuous effort managed to open the door, which revealed a massive, dimly lit room whose walls were lined with humming machinery. I recognized none of the devices and terminals that littered the room, nor did my companions, and most of what we saw seemed to be of a technological order several years beyond anything of our time. The room of gallery of super scientific design. In the center of the room was a raised square black pad, about 12 by 12 feet, slightly bigger than a bedroom, with a metal podium linked to machinery nearby. A sort of lamp hung over the platform, and a network of thick wiring and tubing led from the space into the unlit recesses of the room. Despite the ostensibly inert state of the machinery, we heard and felt a consistent vibration emanate from the construction, a power of some kind that flowed to or from that weird platform. As we circled the thing, examining the various aspects of it, which I've related here, we at one point heard gunfire from the stairway we had left, and subsequently the agonized cries of the exhausted couple therein. Our awestruck examinations turned to panic, frantic searching as we looked for some manner of defense from the attackers, or escape from the room. No doors could be found, and the only items capable of being weaponized were several steel chairs placed before the bizarre machinery. Doubting our success against military combatants, I decided to try and make use of the focal pad. I'd seen enough science fiction media to speculate that its use were of a transportive nature. Intuition and common sense allowed me to activate the machine to some degree, and the pad's overhanging lamp glowed hotly above us. Still determined to fight off the guard with chairs, My companions gathered at the door and attempted to bar it with a chair leg, leaving me to operate the machine. After a series of button presses of no particular order, the pad began emanating a low yet powerful hum, and a digital display on the podium began counting down from 30. A small screen to the left of this displayed a series of numbers which obviously pertained to a date. And without needing a second of self-reassurance, I plotted a temporal location considerably before the current date. I practically leapt onto the pad, and just as I felt the vibrations and strange, inexpressible pulsations overcome my body, I saw the door defending group blown back by some explosive device. What happened next, I cannot accurately describe. There was the sensation of dematerialization, of atomical destruction and subsequent reformation, and then a transference of form not across a physical distance, but through some more abstract, elemental expanse, as if I were blasted to particles and my constituent debris remade elsewhere among a wholly different sphere of existence. I do not know if it was through time or reality I traveled, if my instantaneous voyage was one of chronological reversal, or if it had been admitted to a reality where the entity resembling myself had not yet embarked on that ill-fated assault. If this is truly my world, and I've defied the once irreversible current of time, then I can only warn you all of what will happen if you attend that stupid, perilous storm. If the machine's purpose is of an arguably grander nature, and I've been cast into mirrored realm of my own, then my admonishment still stands. I'm not sure what to make of things. I feel as if I've merely been given a second chance in my own timeline. However, there are certain things which puzzle me about this place. Namely, how no one in this realm seems to have heard of the recently declassified lunar compound that our group planned to siege after Area 51, where the secrets of the extinct anti-human lizard men are rumored